The First World War had ended with promises of peace, but in reality it left the world broken, disillusioned, and divided. From the economic despair of the Great Depression to the rise of extreme ideologies, the seeds of an even more catastrophic conflict were quietly taking root. 1933 to 1939, the rise of tyranny and path to war. In 1933, Adolf Hitler rose to power in Germany. As Chancellor, then Führer, he quickly dismantled democracy, built a totalitarian state, and began rearming the German military, in open defiance of the Treaty of Versailles. He blamed Jews, communists, and foreigners for Germany's humiliation and economic ruin, laying the foundation for racial laws, propaganda, and mass persecution. Meanwhile, in Italy, Benito Mussolini pursued fascist expansionism, invading Ethiopia in 1935. And far to the east, militarist leaders in Japan were building an empire across Asia, seizing Manchuria in 1931 and launching a full-scale invasion of China in 1937, committing horrifying atrocities like the Nanjing Massacre. Europe watched nervously, but the major powers, France, Britain, scarred by World War I, chose appeasement over confrontation. In 1938, Hitler annexed Austria in the Anschluss. Then came the Sudetenland from Czechoslovakia, handed over at the Munich Conference in the name of peace. But Hitler wanted more. On September 1, 1939, Germany invaded Poland using a swift, brutal tactic known as Blitzkrieg, Lightning War. 2 days later, Britain and France declared war on Germany. World War II had begun. 1939 to 1941, Axis advance and European collapse. Poland fell in weeks. The Soviet Union, under Stalin, invaded from the east, per a secret pact with Hitler, the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact. By spring 1940, Germany turned west. Norway, Denmark, Belgium, the Netherlands, all fell in rapid succession. In May 1940, France collapsed. In just 6 weeks, Paris was occupied, and a puppet regime, Vichy France, was established. British forces narrowly escaped from Dunkirk. Now alone, Britain stood defiant. Hitler launched the Battle of Britain, a relentless aerial bombing campaign. But Britain endured. The Royal Air Force, outnumbered but determined, denied Hitler air superiority. Meanwhile, in the Mediterranean, Mussolini's Italian forces struggled in Greece and North Africa, prompting German intervention. 1941, Operation Barbarossa and Pearl Harbor. In June 1941, Hitler broke his pact with Stalin. In Operation Barbarossa, over 3 million German soldiers invaded the Soviet Union. It was the largest military invasion in history. Cities like Kiev, Smolensk, and eventually Leningrad came under siege. In the forests of Eastern Europe, the Holocaust escalated. Mass shootings, ghettos, and extermination camps began to implement Hitler's final solution. Then on December 7, 1941, the Japanese attacked the U.S. naval base at Pearl Harbor. More than 2,400 Americans were killed. The next day, the United States declared war on Japan. Soon after, Germany and Italy declared war on the U.S. World War II was now a truly global war, fought across Europe, North Africa, Asia, and the Pacific. 1942 to 1943, turning points of the war. Narrator, by 1942, Axis powers controlled vast territory, but cracks began to appear. In North Africa, British General Bernard Montgomery defeated Rommel at Alamein. In the Pacific, the U.S. Navy struck back, winning the Battle of Midway and halting Japanese expansion. In the East, the Soviet Union made a heroic stand at Stalingrad. Amid freezing temperatures and brutal fighting, the Red Army surrounded and crushed Germany's 6th Army in early 1943, a turning point on the Eastern Front. 1943 to 1944, the Allies strike back. The Allies launched campaigns in Sicily and Italy. Mussolini was overthrown, and Italy surrendered, though fierce fighting continued against German troops. Meanwhile, Allied bombers pounded German cities in round-the-clock bombing raids, destroying infrastructure but killing tens of thousands of civilians. In the Pacific, island hopping began, from Guadalcanal to Saipan, pushing Japan slowly back toward its homeland. 1944, D-Day and the liberation of Europe. On June 6, 1944, D-Day, over 150,000 Allied troops landed on the beaches of Normandy, France. It was the largest amphibious invasion in history. Despite heavy resistance, the beachheads were secured. Paris was liberated by August. From the west and east, Allied forces began to close in on Germany. In December 1944, Germany launched a desperate counterattack in the Ardennes, the Battle of the Bulge, but they failed. By early 1945, the Reich was collapsing. 1945, the fall of the Axis powers. In April, Soviet forces reached Berlin. Adolf Hitler, trapped in his bunker, took his own life on April 30th. On May 7th, Germany unconditionally surrendered. Victory in Europe, VE Day, was declared on May 8th, 1945. But the war wasn't over. In the Pacific, Japan fought on fiercely. Kamikaze pilots targeted U.S. ships. The battles of Iwo Jima and Okinawa were bloody and brutal. To avoid a prolonged invasion, the U.S. made a fateful decision. August 1945, Hiroshima, Nagasaki, and Japan surrender. On August 6, 1945, the U.S. dropped an atomic bomb on Hiroshima. 3 days later, another bomb fell on Nagasaki. Over 200,000 people were killed, instantly or from radiation sickness. On September 2, 1945, Japan formally surrendered aboard the USS Missouri. World War II was finally over. Aftermath: a world transformed. More than 70 million lives were lost. Soldiers and civilians, men, women, and children. The Holocaust had claimed 6 million Jews and millions of others. A genocide that shook humanity's conscience. Europe was in ruins. Asia was devastated. But the world changed forever. The United Nations was born. The United States and Soviet Union emerged as superpowers, rivals in a Cold War that would last nearly half a century. Closing scene: global memorials, UN Assembly, modern cities rebuilt. World War II was the deadliest conflict in history, but also a defining moment for our civilization. It was a war of destruction, but also of resistance, courage, and redemption. The lessons of World War II echo still, a reminder of how easily hatred can spread and how dearly freedom must be defended.